You don't have your hood up. It seems very not serious. And I like your hair.
Well, I don't. Look at the camera. Stop looking at my head. What do you think, Al?
Can you not do crisscross applesauce?
No, it's not comfortable, you know?
Okay. Alright, well...
Wait, crisscross applesauce? Why are you still saying that?
I don't know. That's how everybody's taught. I feel like crisscross applesauce. And then it just, you grow up.
I hadn't heard crisscross applesauce name.
You weren't taught that in elementary school?
No, it was always Indians.
Today, like I mentioned in my last vlog, I wanted to sit down. The kids are not quite asleep, but they are attempting to go down for their morning nap. And so we are hiding up in our room trying to get this video filmed. I said in my last vlog though that I kind of, I guess, announced that we decided to homeschool and showed you guys like kind of a overview of like what our homeschool room looks like so far. We have a lot of work to do still in it, but I did mention though that we were going to be putting out a video of the reasons why we are wanting to homeschool and why we are deciding to. I will throw out a disclaimer about this though. We are not trying to, I guess, like force our views on anybody else. We are simply stating why we chose to and why God put it on our hearts to. We are not saying that kids that go to public school are going to be
exactly what you want with your children.
Yes. I don't think that there's any like right versus wrong or one of them being better. I think it just truly depends on, in your heart as your children's parents, what you feel like is best for them. And I think that everybody is different and every child is different and has different needs. So these are simply our decisions with our children. So with that being said, I have notes right here because I didn't want to forget any. And honestly, I wrote these down because years from now, I would like to look back at kind of my why on those hard days and just remember why we started this journey and what was important to me when we first started. So I have 10 reasons why. We're not going to go in depth and elaborate on every single one or else this video would be an hour long, but we are just going to let you know our reasons. And then I also have 5, I guess, cons to homeschooling that we... Challenges. Yes, I think there's pros and cons of homeschooling and public school. These are just the challenges that we may face with homeschooling and things that we are not oblivious to and things that we will work on and pray about and get through as a family. So I did want to touch on those as well and not just put out all of the positive, beautiful things about homeschooling and everybody think that we're just unaware of
it's not going to be unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
There's going to be some things we really like and some things that we really don't like that comes with it.
But it would be like that with public school also. There would be things that we love about public school and things that we don't like. So anyways, we'll just get straight into our reasons why. So grab your coffee or your water or a snack and join us.
She didn't say anything about snacks.
What are you doing?
It's black. I didn't know it was over there.
You're just gonna all of a sudden change how you look?
Yes.
Crisscross applesauce.
It's not a thing.
I should also have prefaced this. If you're new to our channel, I am a stay-at-home mom of 2. We have an almost 1-year-old son and a 2.5-year-old little girl. And my husband actually has been working from home due to COVID since the day that Remy was born. So we have almost hit the year mark of having him at home and we have loved it. But that is our situation as of right now, and that is why we are embarking on this journey, because we have a daughter that is entering those preschool years And so we just had a decision to make if we were going to send her to a preschool or if we wanted to start this homeschooling journey. So that is where we're at in our family right now. So back to number one. We just feel like we have really enjoyed this family time together with my husband home. We feel like homeschooling will create an environment of just him being able to teach some things and helping with the homeschooling journey with him working from home. And we just thoroughly enjoy just doing things as a family and bonding over just things and experiences and time together. And I guess I will feel almost gypped of that if they are going to a public school 5 days a week for a majority of the day. And I don't want a lifestyle where I see my kids in the morning and it's rushed and we get them off to school and then I don't see them all day and I'm not a part of their learning and growing as people. And then they come home from school and there's homework and dinner to be done and chores and just feeling so rushed in the morning and the evening, and then my husband only getting a few hours with them in the evening. And that's just not a lifestyle that we desire. We just love being together as a family, so we want to kind of, I guess, capitalize on that.
I'll start off by saying I loved public school. I thought it was great, but I also didn't even know that there was another option growing up until I got into like high school. I was like, oh, people do that? That seems cool, but it just wasn't in the cards for my family. So like when we went into this conversation about whether to homeschool or not to, I didn't want to at first. I was like, nah, public school's great, school's great, but that was my experience. I didn't have anything particularly against homeschooling. I just kept thinking about all the things I really, really liked about public school. But when you do that, you don't consider the other things that were less than appealing, right? When it comes to family time versus time spent away, thinking back to school, I was gone at least 8 hours. But there's also the time where you get up before school to get to school. And then, based off of my family dynamic, like after school, I was still, my parents both worked. So there was a big gap in before school and after school. So it was more than just 8 hours of just not being with my family. Like, yes, I was structured, I was taken care of, but when it comes down to family time, giving that much away through multiple years, when we sat down and thought about it, it just didn't. If we had the opportunity to not do that, that's where we wanted to go after.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's never, CJ and I have talked since before our kids were born. We have always wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom. It's always been very, very important to us that we raise our children. And even in our discussing like back and forth of public school and homeschooling, even when public school was, I guess, more of a possibility at the time, I was never going to just go get a full-time job just because our kids were at school. We still wanted a balance of me being able to take them to appointments and me being able to go pick them up if they were sick, and we didn't want them to have to stay in like an after-school program if we weren't both off work. And so anyways, it was, even when we were going to do public school, we weren't going to have, I guess, two full-time parents working.
Yeah.
And I had a very different experience. I did not enjoy school. I was a very quiet, reserved kid, and school, I guess, like made me more nervous. I felt like I was constantly comparing myself to other students, either academically or physically. I was not the type that I was nervous to even raise my hand and speak in front of the class, so a lot of times I just would go without even asking questions. whenever I felt like I was behind or needed answers on something. And my opinion of at least the older ages, like middle school and high school, was that it was more about social time than it was school. And I think there's a balance to finding extracurricular activities for your kids, so it's not more about just being social butterflies. But since I was shy, I just didn't really get involved in a lot. And so to me, school just became just almost this like social platform before social media was really big. So we have kind of two different views on public school. I still think there's a lot of like positives, but I guess in my opinion, another disclaimer I want to put out there is this has nothing to do with teachers. We think teachers are amazing. We feel like anybody who works in the school system is amazing and underpaid, and it takes a special person, I feel like, to work in a school district, whether you're a teacher, a principal, a custodian, a school bus driver. We appreciate everybody, and we don't think that this decision has nothing to do with that. No. It's more, I guess, like the school system and education system itself.
Yeah, because that also impacts the teachers as well. Like,
yes.
You're put in certain situations that are less than ideal anyway.
Yes.
And I love educators. Like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be educated.
Yeah.
But for us, it's not saying that we're better at educating or anything like that. Part of it is I want us to be responsible for the upbringing of our children, mm-hmm. alongside them getting education. Right? It's not just, okay, for this moment in their lives, they're going to be predominantly shaped and groomed by the experiences and the people that they're around majority of the time. Mm-hmm. And that's not an indictment on anybody. That's science. That's psychologically what happens. That's socially what happens.
Yeah.
That's physically that happens. You become who you're around the most.
And teachers are doing more than teaching academically, especially in those younger years. Like, teachers are involved, I feel like almost in part of parenting. Like, you're teaching them to share and to take turns. And I guess, like, we just want to take that on. Like, we want to teach our kids and shape and mold them without the influence, I guess, of other peers, which we'll get into. Number two, we love the flexibility aspect of homeschooling. We get to decide if we're going to year-round school. We get to decide if we only want to homeschool 9 months of the year and have 3 whole months off. If we have a vacation coming up, I can plan in our curriculum when we're going to have a break in school. We can slow down if we have a child that is struggling in an area, or we can speed up if they're excelling and bored. Okay guys, I'm kind of irritated because I am editing, as you can see, and I realized that whenever our camera was just kind of quitting on us before I was done with 1 and 2, and it missed out on 3 and 4 somewhere along the way. So I wanted to quickly insert this video. Our number 3rd reason was to instill a number 3. We've been talking for too long. Anyways, number 3, our 3rd reason, is to instill a love for learning and reading in a comfortable, no pressure environment, and just keeping emphasis on building and just the importance of building a positive self-esteem and confidence. And number 4 is along the same lines, character buildings, instilling good Christian-centered morals and values for life, and keeping God at the center. None of these in this video were in a particular order, but that one, I would say number 4 probably hits home at our number 1 reason overall, is having a God-centered household, God-centered morals and values for life, and
it's the priority.
Yes, and God-centered curriculum, which I will get into curriculum in a whole other video. But I wanted you to get our third and fourth reason before the video skips to number 5. Okay, sorry, camera malfunction. Okay, so number 5, I guess kind of went on with what I said about number 4, like less social pressure, less drama, less fighting, less social media. And we'll get into social media in a different future video, but our children will not be allowed to have Instagram and Facebook and all of these platforms in these younger years because we feel like it's unnecessary, and there's a maturity aspect of being able to handle certain things, and so we will decide when they are allowed those platforms. Bullying, getting along with other kids, there is just less of that at home, and we feel like those like less distractions creates more of an environment, I guess more space for learning.
Same thing with social media. They're not getting it, so they're not gonna miss out on anything that they've never experienced.
Yeah, and they are going to experience life. They are not going to be sheltered children that never leave the house. We're not saying they're never going to encounter bullying or never encounter teasing or drama or fighting or any of that. They're going to be in extracurricular activities. We're going to be in co-ops with other homeschooling families. They're going to be involved in church and church activities and groups. They're going to be around other kids. They're not going to be immune to this stuff. Yeah. But again, it comes down to what they're around most in their daily lives, and so we just want to take that out of it. Number 6, it's one-on-one education. Like again, I know there's tutoring, but they're gonna majority of the time be in a classroom setting with a lot of kids, and not all teachers, but I have spoke to some that there's a lot of teacher burnout these days with the amount of paperwork. I mean, there's more paperwork put on teachers' plates nowadays than the actual teaching and instruction. And again, like I explained early in the video, I was the shy kid that I was too nervous to speak in front of an entire classroom of kids my age and have everybody staring at me. So I just didn't ask questions. And that will be eliminated at home. Like it's gonna be again this comfortable environment that they're not around so many other distractions and kids, and
we can adapt to their learning style. Like she said, she learns a certain way. I learned a certain way in school as well.
And we'll learn our children's strengths and weaknesses and what they need, and we can focus on them because it'll be like I guess like a better ratio. It'll be me with 2 children or 3 if we decide to have another child. It's just that's different than 1 on 20 or 1 on 25. Number 7, preserving our children's innocence just a little bit longer. Today's society is much different than even whenever we were in public school, and I feel like I know for every city, like structure is different. Male and female, it might be different in what you're exposed to, but the things that I feel like we were exposed to in middle school and high school, kids are exposed to it now in 1st and 2nd grade.
And not only that exposure, just think about the things that you've learned and where you learned them from. When did you learn about sex? And where were you? Did your parents teach you, or was the first experience learning at the same time as your peers?
Yeah.
Those are the types of things that don't make sense to me. If I don't have to do that, I don't want to put my kids in that situation.
Yeah. And not that they won't learn those things, but we feel like we can judge maturity levels and then that information coming from us. That's going to be
a conversation with an adult and not.
Yes. And again, having God at the center of it. There is amazing young boys and girls out there that have amazing parents that are leading them in a Christ-centered home, and might give our kids great advice, but there is also a lot of the opposite. And so I don't want to have to filter through everything that my kids are hearing every single day that they get home from school, and then us have to try to, I guess, like do damage control and reteach them things. Like we want our home to be Christ-centered, our morals and values to be Christ-centered, and that our kids hear that information from us. and be taught from us and not
ask us questions.
Yes.
A lot of times kids might ask each other questions, but also there's times where they just don't. And they're like, no, I know what you're talking about. I know what yeah. And then there's this big cloud of no one actually knowing what it is.
Yeah.
But putting themselves in situations as if they do know how to handle it. And
yeah. And our kids being around them more than they are our family and taking what they're saying as truth. And again, I don't feel like combating that every single day. And I want them to have a strong foundation that we build and put in them with God. And yeah, so just preserving our kids' innocence a little bit longer in our safe home. Number 8, I personally, you can agree or disagree with me, but I feel like school is geared more towards passing tests, and homeschool aids more in learning and mastering concepts and life skills, and not just we went over this, they passed this exam, check the box, move on to something else. Yeah, I don't really have a lot to elaborate on that. I just feel like it is structured. You can structure it differently.
Yeah, and there are aspects of both. We're not saying that it doesn't exist in school, that they want you to learn and build on and apply things, but it does seem like, hey, so let's get the test done first. Let's make sure we get you to this point so you have enough knowledge to get this milestone finished, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Along the way, you do get the opportunity to master some of that, but it's not necessarily, like she said, the way the curriculum is structured. It's just, hey, I got to get this stuff in this time frame. So if you get it, great. If you get it enough to get a good grade, great. If you don't get it that much to get a good grade, I'm sorry.
Then you're going to get a bad grade and we're going to move on.
Yeah, I'm not going to go back to that. You just... You got what you got. We have to move on.
And I was a bad test taker. I got nervous, and as much as I tried to just memorize the information, I had test anxiety, and then would do bad, and it would just reflect in a letter grade. And then we would have to move on to the next topic. And I will be able to sense that in my kids. Not that we're not gonna never test them. In our state where we live, they don't actually require us to keep up with certain tests and standardized testing.
And
yeah, we don't have to, turn in any of that. That's not to say I won't do it to, assess where my kids are at each year for myself and my own record keeping. But we're just not going to learn in order to pass an exam. We're
I want to know that they know it, and I want them to know that they know it.
Yes, be able to learn and apply it, and build on certain topics, and just learn more about our kids and their learning styles, and be able to adapt to that. Number 9, the opportunity to watch our kids learn and flourish, and that be from our hard work and dedication, I feel like is invaluable, and figure out just who they are. And I feel like that would almost be taken from me if I sent them to public school. Yes, at home I can still aid in helping with homework, and as parents you're always teaching your kids, so it's not like we are sending them to school and we don't have to parent anymore. That's not what I mean. But us being able to teach them how to read and experience that, as babies before they are sent off to public school, we get the opportunity to teach them how to walk, and teach them first words, and teach them how to eat with a spoon and a fork, and all of these firsts. And then you send them to school and don't really have a huge impact on their academic learning and that part of their life. And I want that. I want to watch them. We teach our kids the ABCs and different nursery rhymes, and Charlie knows her shapes and her colors and numbers, and she's starting to learn all of her letters. And that is so, that just builds my confidence as a parent, and it is so, a satisfying experience to know that we are doing this for her. And I want to continue that, whether it's science or history or any of that. I want to be able to teach them and just continue that aspect of parenting.
It's like all those little moments. Like you said, up until school age, you get to experience those little moments and be a part of those. And you're literally capturing lightning in a jar. And everyone remember, like you see your kid really understand how to walk, or they really understand how to say a word, and that little moment is like eureka. Now imagine being able to have that multiple different times in different milestones in the kid's life as they get older, because there's going to be a stopping point to a lot of it, right? Because there's just an age where kids just, I got it.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure this out on my own. But we get to watch that confidence grow and see that in our kids.
Yeah.
And we don't want to miss that with other things that are.
I feel like that is one of the happiest times of being a parent, is seeing all of your hard work pay off. And then not just to touch on all the positives of it, and there's gonna be highs and there's gonna be lows. We don't want our kids to come home and be upset and feel ashamed and not really, I don't know, just be in one of those kid moods where they just don't really feel like talking, and then we have to go to the teacher to try to dig and figure out like what are they struggling with at school, like what can we help with, like we just as their parents want to know, like I will know the highs and the lows and what we can put more emphasis on and helping them get through that, and then it'll be even more gratifying whenever they get there and get past a mile marker and achieve something that they've been working so hard on. And again, we want to be a part of the lows as well.
Yeah, we want to teach them how to handle the failures and how to understand what failure's for, and understand how to get out of that and use it, versus like this is happening to me. It's not just happening to you, it's growing. Like that's what we want to be able to impart to our kids early,
and go through that with them,
and then as they continue to grow, they take that into adulthood or into adolescence as they mature. Like, okay, I know how to handle when things happen that I wasn't expecting, or things don't go as I wanted them to.
Yeah. And number 10 is I feel called by God as their mother to homeschool them. And again, that's every parent's decision. There is breastfeeding and bottle feeding, and whatever you feel comfortable with doing, whatever you feel like is best for your child is what's best for them. And neither one of those is right or wrong. And so I have spent literally the last 2.5 years of Charlie's life praying about this and weighing the pros and the cons. And at the end of the day, I feel called to do it. And so I'm not going to ignore it. I have fears, which we'll get into. But it's something I feel so strongly about. And I just know for a fact I am not going to regret having my kids at home with me and teaching them things that they need for life. I feel like I will regret, however, if I ignore this urge that I feel like God has placed on my heart and I send them to public school. Yes, any day I could pull them out and homeschool them, but I feel like I will regret those years that I did not homeschool. So that's number 10.
Yeah, and same for me. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't really want to do it, and I had to really get convinced that this is what is going to be good for our kids. And watching her, pray, and actually she's been proving it over the last 2 years, 3 years almost, with the way she's like imparting things to Charlie. Because when I'm at work, Charlie's still learning stuff. She's still picking up things. Remy's starting to pick up stuff, and this is all based on the hard work that she's doing. And she's already proved that I can handle this, and God has given her the ability to the bandwidth to be able to withstand that. And there are days where she's like, oh man, I don't know, and that isn't going to change. Like there are going to be challenges and things that we're probably going to get into, but that for me, God showed that to me that like she's got it. It's going to be fine, and I get to be a part of it. Right? I'm already working full time, so if my kids go to a public school, not only will I have to work full time, I'm also going to miss some of the things that I might be able to be involved in if they weren't at a different location. So there's just a lot of There's a lot of upside to it.
Yeah.
But what we're gonna get into is some things that, with those upsides, you have some challenges or some things that come along with it, and that's just the way it is. And we'll make do.
We would have these with public school also. Yeah. So number one, I have 5 of these. Number one is the big one that every single person, when they hear the word homeschooling, worry about, and it is socialization. I'm not concerned about it. Like I said earlier on in this video, we are going to get involved in all of our kids, no matter how many we end up having, will always be involved in an extracurricular activity. What?
No matter how many we end up having, we got one more shot.
Yeah, we'll see. They're going to be involved in extracurricular activities. Again, as their parent and teacher, we will be able to figure out our children and like what their interests are, and then like cultivate that. They will be with family and nieces and nephews. They will be involved in our church and church groups, not just on Sundays, but other days of the week. Sports. We'll be involved in activities with other homeschooling families and other kids, where they'll go and do a presentation in front of other homeschooling kids. Like, they are going to get plenty of socialization. We are not worried in the least about socializing our kids.
And I know this is on the cons list, but a lot of this socialization is going to be world experience. They're going to socialize
with not just
with
kids their age,
but just with people. I want them to be able to experience how to adapt and learn how to interact with different types of people in different scenarios. So when we go somewhere, when we're doing school, when we're not doing school, if we're traveling, you're going to talk to people. You're going to learn how to pay for things. You're going to work. You're going to do all this other stuff, and be able to apply the things that you're learning. So that's more valuable, or a bigger version of socialization that we don't have to wait for. We can incorporate that now. And it kind of already happens. Our kids are around their family a lot. We're back.
My camera likes to shut off after a certain amount of time. I guess it assumes that we're not using it anymore.
I'm sure there's a setting somewhere.
Okay, but what I was saying was the time commitment that goes into homeschooling. I will be the mom, still taking care of the house, still disciplining, still getting them meals, but I'm also taking on the role of their teacher, and I have to print off things. I have to go seek out curriculum. I have to grade things, and I have to do some record keeping just for ourselves. I have to go to the library every week and get new books, and I'm taking on a role, so there's more responsibility and more of a time commitment. But again, it's on my cons list, but these are just things that I feel like people could view as negative. I don't view these as negative in my book. It's just, I mean, if I sent my kids to public school and I had a full-time job, that's a time commitment. So I'm just choosing to put that time commitment into my children.
Yeah, it's a difference in investment.
Yes.
Right? Because there's a financial component to this. Sometimes when you send your kids to public school, there's a lot of fees that you didn't know about.
Fees and school supply lists just keep growing every year, and
now we're not necessarily losing a lot of that, but some of our investments are going into different areas. Like she said, the time, that's a bigger investment, right?
Yeah.
So with that said, it's not necessarily a con, it's something that comes with it. And as time goes on, we get the opportunity to rise to that challenge. Yes. What am I going to do with this time while I have it?
Number 3 is no second income. I will say part of, I guess, the luxury of sending your kids to public school is I was kind of looking into the future of when our baby would be 5 and when I would be able to go work outside of the home and bring in a second income, because we've been a one-income family since Charlie was born. And so for 2.5 years now, almost 3. So again, I don't look at that as a con. We budget. We are fine living on a one-income family. Again, the sacrifice of one income to me is worth it to keep my kids at home and homeschool. So you just have to, I guess, figure out what your plans and desires are for your household, and we're doing fine living kind of sacrificially on a one-income household. So
it's what works for us.
Yeah.
And I challenge you to do exactly what works for you and your household.
Number 4, some people would view it as a negative. It is a 180 complete lifestyle change. You don't just add a couple hours of school into your day. Homeschooling becomes your life. Money and budgeting is different for supplies, for curriculum, for our homeschool, which you don't need, by the way. You could have your kitchen table and do just fine. But the daily schedule is going to change. I'm not just going like Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday, whatever days we choose to homeschool. Those days are going to look very different. I'm not going to be planning doctor's appointments on those days and all these extra activities with other stay-at-home moms. And I can because of the flexibility with homeschooling, but it is just a complete shift in your schedule because you have this big, it's going to be a daily priority. It's not just going to be like a side thing that we're just hoping to get to today. 5, the last one is fears that I just have as their mom. I did not get a degree, even though I wanted to actually. That was, being a teacher was my degree of choice, that I was kind of heading in that direction in college.
Funny how things come back around.
I know. But I do not have a degree in teaching. I have concerns if I'm smart enough to teach them everything they need to know. I have fears of being able to combat negativity from other people that like look poorly on homeschooling, and just that bad social stigma that's put on kids that homeschool and families that homeschool. I have insecurities about that, but at the end of the day, I also know that I have done my due diligence in prayer and research, and I know that there are countless resources out there to help me in those hard times if we get to calculus or chemistry or things that I feel like are not my strong point. It is other people's strong points, and so there
and
are
even our family. Like we got a bunch of brains in our family that have their specifications. So it's on the cons list, but it's one of those things we get. It's another opportunity.
Yes, and I guess another point that I find, we discussed this a long time ago, but if it's just funny to me that somebody will not agree with homeschooling because they don't feel like they can teach their kids. So they want to send their kids to public school to get an education just like they got and learn as much as they did, but it's like you obviously didn't even learn those things enough to then feel like you could teach them. So did you really learn them? So it's just funny to me that they think that some people think public school is the answer and that they'll learn everything they need to, and you went to public school and don't feel confident in in teaching, I guess, like what you learned, but you want to send your kids there. I don't know. It just seems kind of backwards to me. And so I ultimately feel like God will equip me to give my kids the best education possible. But again, like mamas out there, if you are feeling, I just feel like in your heart you will know, like if you pray about it and you are feeling an urge, I just feel like you shouldn't ignore it. Like we as parents have intuition about our families and kids, and I truly think that we know best how to parent them and what to do in certain situations. And so I just don't think you should ignore that like feeling in your heart to do something or to not do something.
And parents, get on the same team.
Yes.
Support each other in whatever that decision ends up being, but make the decision together. Communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's mom predominantly doing the homeschooling, or dad doing?
Okay, guys, I'm sorry. We are now on one of our phones because our camera officially quit on us.
Yeah, it's done.
We've been talking too long. I knew this video was going to be long, but anyways,
Yeah, she talks a lot.
We were cut off, but I did just want to end this. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you're subscribed so that you do not miss future homeschooling videos. I'm going to take you guys along for this entire journey. When I choose curriculum, whenever I go through a homeschooling day, a preschool day with you guys, I'm going to show you this whole journey and discuss the highs and lows, and just keep you guys updated on everything, and show you how dad is going to be present in homeschooling and what that looks like for our household and our family. So make sure you're subscribed, like this video if you want more homeschooling videos, and we will see you next time.
Put a big thumbs up if you want me to be in more videos.